Hey everybody, Dutchsinse here. 6:55 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday, February 12th, 2014. And I want to thank Mike Smith for getting this over to me. This is something that just broke on Australian mainstream news, and it's a strange S-shaped signal that appeared on radar off the western coast of Australia, just west of Perth, northwest. And if you read the article, they're trying to say that this possibly could be the radar reflecting off the ocean's surface, causing a perfect S shape. They're saying it's not cloud, clear day, no explanation. They've consulted the Department of Defense, but the department is yet to comment. Is there anything off the western coast that could be causing a radar interference? And then they go on to say something about giant sea serpent overlords and the Rottnest Nest monster and shark baits. Now, I think it's important to go see what's off the western coast. Now, I already know what's there, so I don't really want to spoil it for you guys. But here's Perth, and we're talking somewhere about here. Okay, so somewhere here, let's say. Now, just to the north, we've got a place called Exmouth, Australia. Here we go. And it's a giant antenna array. And I just wanted to show this to you. It's part of the HARP operation. It's one of many facilities. This also does VLF communications. Now, if you're not familiar with what VLF is and how they're able to generate it using a high frequency, what they'll do is they'll use high frequency, modulate it through the ionosphere or upper atmosphere, where it then cross modulates and forms VLF. So using high frequency, they are able to generate low frequency at an altitude. Now the way they do that is using these antennas, they're able to modulate the antennas to tilt the signal. They will shoot the signal up at an angle up into the ionosphere and then reflect it back down, or sometimes out into space, or sometimes even do experiments up in the atmosphere and ionosphere where they reflect it up at. Now they'll use radar in conjunction with places like Exmouth or HARP or ISCAT over in Europe, and they'll watch what's going on, the plasma that's being generated, let's say, at a distance using radar. Now, I would encourage you to look at this three-dimensionally. When you're looking at this, don't look at it like it's flat, spread out over 100 miles. Look at it like you're almost looking down on it like a letter S. And if that's the case, then really what you're looking at is a waveform that's traveling through the atmosphere. Okay? Does that make sense? That if this is going up into space or traveling from up here, that this would be just one intersected waveform. And look where it's happening. Right at the perimeter, directly upon the perimeter of the radar. So 100 kilometers out, it's having an interference. I would say they are observing something indirectly, unintentionally, with weather radar. The reason that can happen is that the high frequency that they're using, sometimes they can use a microwave band, let's say 2.4 gigahertz. Our NexRad in the United States normally operating in the 2 gigahertz range. Okay? So if they have a high power transmitter, let's say at Exmouth, that waveform, let's go look at it again, that waveform would be coming from this direction. Okay? So if we go back here, and the waveform is out here, it would be coming from this direction, which puts it basically right up in this area. There's no way to pinpoint it. I mean, we're looking at a weather radar, and it's interpreting some kind of signal that's off the western coast of Australia, and that's what stood out to me. When I hear western coast of Australia, I think major submarine communications, major satellite communications, very large array there. If you're curious about how radio frequency can affect the atmosphere, the ionosphere, the Earth, I've put together a whole post on the topic of radio frequency manipulation of the atmosphere and ionosphere. It's on my blog. It's really easy to find. All you need to do is type in "want to know about HAARP," and it will come right up. I'll put a link down below for it, actually, so you guys don't even have to search. You know how people sometimes don't do the search themselves. But it's 2 very long pages. It'll take you several months to get through all of this information if you go read each PDF. But I cover in depth the topic of high-powered microwaves, the United States developing new weapons, and our allies as well working together with us to basically master the radio frequency spectrum and to generate, like here's an example, HAARP in Alaska using 4.34 megahertz to generate a plasma bubble in the atmosphere, multiple thousand degree temperature, for over an hour and direct it using other transmitters like radar. They used radar to image it, and this is what showed up on their version of a VHF radar that was able to image the plasma bubble that they generated in the atmosphere, not in the ionosphere, in the upper atmosphere. And they've used radar to transmit power wirelessly to light up light bulbs across an entire valley using 2.45 gigahertz radar. HAARP is just one facility. The U.S. allies, especially at the South Pole, are definitely involved, and they are very aware of radar observations of energy phenomenon generated from high-power facilities. Exmouth arguably is one of those facilities. There's no way to prove it for sure. But if you're in Australia, guys, you got to start looking into this yourselves. I've got all the information that I could find on HAARP and possibly ISCAT over in Europe, but when it comes to documenting things in other countries, we do rely on other researchers to do this work. Someone's going to have to find out more about what's in the area if you're curious about what is causing that S-shaped phenomenon. Enjoy, guys. Much love. Always look into the strange stuff. Cheers, guys.